Hi, welcome to Retirement Your Way. I'm Debbi Marcum, and I'd love to welcome my lovely co host, Jaclyn. How are you doing, gorgeous?
Oh, I am so good. I mean, the weather, the sun is shining. I get to be with you. And I'm also a little bit blinded by what's in your background today. Can we talk about
Sure, sure. That was a real surprise. I'll pick up these. You could use these as a weapon. These things are heavy.
that? So you
Here's
have
one of
two
them. I have two
two
of them.
awards.
Here's
For
one of
what?
them. This one is Top Financial Services Professional Award.
Wow.
And then 2025 Top Advisor Award. I know, aren't they lovely?
Wow.
Yeah.
Debbi, congratulations. That is huge. And for our listeners and
Thank
viewers,
you.
please comment and tell Debbi congratulations and how
Thank
honored
you.
this is because, you know, Debbi, you deserve it. You earned
Thank
that
you.
and huge awards, and they're pretty gorgeous.
They
So,
are gorgeous. They're very gorgeous. And I have to say, Graydon takes great care of me. So I could not do this, would not want to do this without them.
yes. Well, how
So
are you besides
I'm
those?
doing great. I just have been quite busy. But I love it. I tell you what, I have this weekend we gave a little get together for several friends, and they all got to meet each other. Very few of them actually knew each other
Mhm.
beforehand. And every one of them commented and said, "This was the greatest combination of people." And I said, "Well, that's because I have great taste in friends. I have great taste in clients as well." So
Mhm.
it's been a very rewarding month. So,
Yeah. Yeah, I love that, and you're
uh,
absolutely right because that's kinda how I am as a friend too. I have
mhm.
multiple friend groups, and when you introduce everybody, it's like, this is fun, this is
Yeah.
great, and it's such a compliment to you, because you're right. You make those friends, you know those people, and you know how they will get along, and you introduce them.
I think I'm just a magnet for very nice people. I think I attract very nice people into my circle.
I love that. I love that. Well, I mean, I you absolutely do, and I can attest to that. So,
Well, that's why I
well,
say I'm the most blessed woman I know. So,
yes, yes. Well, Debbi, I am excited about this topic because we
yeah,
are going to kind of close out our,
yes,
Fearless Finances for Women series. So this is part
yes,
4, I believe.
yes, yes, it is.
And we're gonna this is the last of our series. So it's a little bittersweet.
It is a little bittersweet. Yeah. It's been fun though. It's been
It
fun.
has been.
It's been very
It
fulfilling. It's a passion of mine. So I've been happy to do this one.
Yes, yes. So, Debbi, what are we going to be talking about today?
Today we're going to do flourishing after the finish line.
Okay. And I'm guessing that means roses?
Well, hopefully it will help you live a rosy life. How about that?
I like that. I like that. Well, and you're right. I mean, flourishing just is growing, right? I
Mhm.
mean, you're smiling, you're happy, we really want to get you at that state of mind after you retire. In
Yes,
retirement. And I think the biggest shift when you retire is your mental state.
you're right.
And how to provide that almost, reliable or purpose in your
Mhm.
life, right? And so, Debbi, where do you want to start?
Well, I'm going to start with, first of all, the whole financial aspect of it, because, eh, let's admit, finances are extremely important in
Mm-hmm.
retirement. I had that discussion with a client this morning, and she said, I didn't do well with retirement. And part of it was because we didn't understand our finances.
Yeah.
So, my first thing is you really need to know your money.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I believe that everyone needs a financial advisor, especially one that understands retirement. Because there are some special things involved with it that if the majority of your clients are 30-year-olds, you're not going to really understand the whole impact that Social Security has on you. So, yeah, I think that working with an advisor who truly kind of specializes in retirement is paramount.
Yes.
So, know your money. You need to maximize your Social Security, which is one of the things I love about what I can do because I can run this amazing report for them that will show them, okay, this is our recommendation for your circumstances. Started
Mm-hmm.
at 68. Nope, nope, you're better off waiting till you're 70. It It targets it to what your situation is. So I think that is a wonderful tool that I have in my toolbox. Many women underestimate what they're entitled to. So I think that is especially important. My clients are becoming much better about it. Okay, we're thinking about retiring. Can you run that report for me and see where we are at this point? So they're learning to take advantage of that. So first, know your money.
Yeah. Yeah, and great point. I mean, we talk about that in past episodes as well, maybe not in this series, but it's so important to understand what you have,
Yes.
because if you understand the value of what you hold, then you can know how to grow it or
Yes.
know the purpose of it or how to implement it in your plan and as a strategy. But without the foundation of knowing what you have, it's really hard to build off of,
Yes,
right?
it
When
is.
there's foundations all over the place, how are you going to build a roof on that?
Yeah.
And so that's a great point. And also,
Yeah.
I want to go further into that by saying, the importance of consolidating accounts,
Hmm.
because I think one thing is that there are so many different 401k and
Yeah.
401ks everywhere. And, we talked about past and this series about, women are most likely to take a break from work
Hmm.
or, change a job or go part time, right? And there's so many different aspects to that where the 401k accounts, the, different work accounts, they can get lost.
Yes, they
And
can.
it's so important to consolidate that and know what you have.
Hmm. I had a client call me the other day and she said, we just discovered another 401k that my husband had. He did not work at this company for very long, and we just kind
Yes.
of accidentally ran across it. And that happens more often than you would think.
Uh-huh.
But I guess that's kind of the equivalent of finding a $10 bill in your pocket. That you kind of
Yeah.
forgot. Hopefully, it's a little bit more than $10.
Yeah.
Let's
I was
see.
gonna say $10 isn't very far now,
Hey, I'm
Debbi.
still thrilled to get a $10 bill.
Go buy yourself a coffee.
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree. Yeah, I agree. I think so. Understanding all of that, consolidating things, which is one reason my clients, I think, really appreciate having a relationship with me, because I do simplify things for them. And,
Mhm.
and if you can consolidate things, have a one to go person, they know they can come to me and I can hit all of those aspects for them. So I think that's important. I've had more clients tell me recently that I just need to simplify my life. And,
Mhm.
the older we get, that tends to be kind of a desire
Yeah.
for us. So yeah, I think that's one of it. The second point is, and we've mentioned it, in this series as well as in the past, women especially are more impacted by health issues.
Yes.
Part
Mhm.
of it is because we outnumber men. So
Mhm.
therefore, the healthcare cost, if you look at it nationwide, our healthcare costs are going to be more because there are more of us in retirement
Mhm.
than men. So we outnumber them. But that's often one of the biggest retirement expenses that women in particular have. And so we statistically need more long-term care. That is
Mhm.
something that you need to plan for. We need to have those discussions ahead of time so that we can prepare for those,
Mhm.
which is one of the reasons why I love doing what I do, because far too many people have nursing home insurance. It just gotten to be so expensive. So having those avenues that will take care of that without having that expense is huge. So I think
Yes.
that's something that we need to plan for in advance. But even if you haven't planned for an event, it's rarely too late to plan for that.
Mhm.
So I
Mhm.
think that's one thing that we really need to think of, that helps you flourish. Having the stress of the financial aspect of it is not good for your health. So it's tough to
Mhm.
flourish if you're
Yeah.
having to worry about paying for those healthcare costs.
Well, and the other thing that comes to mind when you talk about this, Debbi, is, who are most likely going to be the caregivers?
Yes.
Us.
Hmm.
And just women in general, right? I mean,
Yeah.
it's yes, we live longer typically than a
Hmm.
male, but most likely we take on the nurturing, caregiving aspect in a relationship. And so
Yes.
when we're talking about children and spouses and all
And
of that,
parents.
and parents, yes, I mean, that's a lot to care for while maybe not considering your own health and your own
Yes.
stress and your own mental well-being. And so it does all kind of have a ripple effect.
You're right. It does. I mean, I have a new client that retired much sooner than she was planning to because she needed to take care of her mother.
Yeah.
And so that definitely, she had to rethink retirement. It
Mhm.
postponed her retirement. She ended up going back to work after, her mother passed away.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that can go into it. And that definitely impacted her financially, but it also impacted her health
Yeah.
because the stress of, okay, I have less money now, and I also have that additional responsibility, which
Mhm.
she gladly took on for her mother, but it does take its toll, or it
Well,
can take its toll.
and you said that right there. I mean, I will say this just based off of you and I and our,
Mhm.
what we do, but we're very selfless. And
Yes.
so when we're talking about nurturing, we don't really necessarily think about our own health. Like
No.
it's just kind of at the back burner. And so you're talking about this client and her mom. I mean, you and I would do the same thing.
Yeah.
And
In a
we wouldn't
heartbeat.
even think twice about it.
Yeah.
And so it's just having that knowledge of where am I financially? Where
Mhm.
am I with my own care? And if this is going to set me back, talk with your financial advisor about it
Yeah.
because, yes, we want to be selfless and that's what we desire to do,
Mhm.
but is it really worth it in the long-term strategy?
Yeah.
And really putting yourself first sometimes and consider that at least.
Well, I think a good financial advisor can actually kind of force you into, okay, let's think through
Mhm.
all of this. Is this really what's best for everyone?
Mhm.
I'm going to ask you to be a little selfish in this point. Is this going to be best for you in the long run?
Yes.
And are you doing it, yeah, obviously out of the generosity and kindness and love out of your heart, but is it going to ultimately be the best for everyone involved? And a
Yes.
good financial advisor will help you kind of ask those difficult questions.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Debbie, what's number 3?
Uh, Rethink housing early. Uh,
Ooh.
yeah, yeah. My husband had total knee replacement last year, and so stairs were an issue for a few weeks, and having to sit on the steps to get up and down, was not always. Thought we can't do this indefinitely. So I have a 3-story home. So even though we are both in great health right now, and man, he can make those steps no problem. He's got a brand new knee. We have started thinking, okay, down the road, is this house going to be feasible for us? I love where I live. I love this home. So I'm already thinking, okay, an elevator may play into our part. Either that or we're going to try to find a one-level home, which in the mountains in Tennessee is not always easy to do.
Mhm.
But start rethinking your housing early. Are you going to want to downsize at some point?
Mhm.
Have the difficult question of, okay, if my significant other dies, can I handle this home by myself? You know,
Mhm.
am I going to be able to mow the grass? Am I going to be able to keep up with any repairs? Can I afford that financially? Can I, afford that physically to take care of that? So those are
Mhm.
things that you need to ask those difficult questions. Is this house logical for me at 70, at 80, at
Mhm.
90? And so rethink that. Do I want to take care of a big home, or do we need to start thinking about resizing? And I want it to be more of doing it before it's necessary.
Yes.
For one thing, you'll get the biggest bang for your buck. If it's time to
Mhm.
sell it when it's, at an optimum time rather than when, markets are,
Yes.
So evaluating that beforehand, I think, is important. I want the home to be a tool, not a burden.
Yes. Well, and I will say, from my experience, I mean, I'm not there, but my parents are.
Yeah.
And my parents had moved in 2021. So they sold
Mhm.
their 3-story home and they moved into a Rambler. And, they're farther away from the airport. They don't really need the airport that
Yeah.
much anymore. And so everything's on one level, right? Their room, the laundry, the kitchen, everything like that. And then they built a pool. They said that that is what they
Hmm.
wanted for retirement, and they want that for their grandkids. And they did that so then they could maintain it, build it now,
Yeah.
everything like that. And then when they retire, they'll have their retirement house, but it's also they already did all the work to get there.
I like
And
that.
so, they really planned it out well, I guess.
Hmm.
I guess you could say. So
I
it's
agree.
definitely a consideration of when you want to do it and when
Uh,
it's right for you.
well, they also consider, I'm sure they consider the health benefits of having a pool. So that will help them stay
Yes.
in touch. You taught me a new school in new term. In the South, it's called a ranch. So in
Oh,
Minnesota, is it a rambler?
I that's what we call it. Do you
Okay.
call it a
Well,
ranch?
here the ranch,
Okay,
which I don't know why, since Tennessee doesn't really have ranches, for the most
okay.
part. But
Oh,
it's a ranch here.
funny.
It's one level.
Yeah, that is what we call interesting. See, that's
I like
fun.
it. I love it.
But yeah, you're right. I mean, it's just the health benefits and also they did it at when the interest rates were great. But
That's
we don't
perfect
need to
time.
get into that.
Yeah, no. So, okay, my next point: build a strong support network. I cannot
Mm,
stress the importance of that, especially if you've lost a spouse. It can be very isolating, and especially for women. Men typically have a little bit easier time at least expanding their network of people after losing a wife. Not always, but I mean generally
mhm,
that's been the experience. But it can be very isolating. So you need to work at staying socially connected, which is why I recommend join clubs, volunteer, get involved in your church. Um, Attend classes. A dear
mhm,
friend of mine has just taken off with learning new painting styles. So I think that keeps you mentally sharp, but it also expands your social network. And
mhm,
I it breaks my heart when people are 70 years old and have not acquired a new friend in 25 years.
mhm,
How does that happen? Of course, I'm definitely not an introvert, so it's
mhm,
fairly easy for me to make new acquaintances. But sometimes you need to step outside your comfort level and
mhm,
you need to start building that support system and go with people of various ages. You know,
mhm,
I can't imagine how boring my life would be if all of my friends were my age. I love my friends that are my age. That you don't
mhm,
don't get that wrong, but I have other interests as well. And
mhm.
yeah, I think you need a broad network. I get along just as well with my daughter's friends as I do my friends. So, yeah, go across ages. Don't be afraid to have older or younger friends. So,
Yes.
build a strong support network. Speaking as a previous, I mean, I guess I still technically am a widow since I lost a husband. I was surprised with who showed up in my life and who withdrew from my life
Mhm,
because often people can't handle their friend losing a spouse. It's almost
mhm,
like it's contagious. So the people that stepped up really surprised me. They were not people that I knew them, but they were not already part of my daily life or weekly life. So that taught me a valuable lesson, and my support system really expanded rather than contracting after George
mhm.
died, which was a real blessing. But loneliness
Yeah.
has real health impacts.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I think a good point too is maybe putting yourself out there and reaching out to old friends.
Yes.
And, you brought that up just now with when George passed away, and it's maybe some of those people you don't really think about. They're not your first call, they're not really on the top of your mind, but maybe they once were.
Yeah.
And maybe, you guys just kind of drifted apart a little bit. Reach out. I
Yeah.
mean, take that chance because I know for my mom too, she just reconnected with her best friend from 15 years ago,
Yeah.
and it's like they didn't miss a beat. And so it's just broadening your horizons and also, yeah, starting over. Maybe
I
having
agree.
that conversation of who are you now? What's up? What are you doing?
I like that.
Um and Debbie, you also mentioned something about golf.
Yes.
And I think that that is a great group to join or join a league, and go
Mhm.
golfing. Meet
I agree.
ladies, meet, other people that are going golfing.
Uh, yeah, I am just taking it up, which
Mm.
thrills my husband to no end. He's thrilled to have me on the golf course with him. Turns out that I'm not horrible at it. I can actually drive pretty well, so I got to work on my
Yes.
putting. But I'll start to take classes on that. So I'm not going to just rely on. I don't want to keep the people behind me
Yes.
too long because I have to hit a lot of times to go slow my game down. But yeah, I'm trying to learn a new skill, uh, working on learning sign language. So
Mhm.
I'm trying. I'm trying.
Yeah.
And going back to what you mentioned about reaching out to an old friend, I encourage you if you have someone that has lost their spouse, go beyond the first week, the first 2 weeks, the first month, because it's just kind of like after you lose a loved one, man, people show up with the food. At least here in the
Mhm.
South, they do. And that first week, man, people are there for you. You get cards, you get calls, people are there for you. And then by the first, you start to see it drop off. After the first
Uh-huh.
2 weeks, you no longer hear from them. After the first month, you no longer hear from them. So continue to reach out to those people because, first of all, grief brain has kicked in. They probably won't remember
Mhm.
most of what has gone on. They won't remember that you were there, that you brought flowers, that you brought, your favorite
Mhm.
dish for them. It's not intentional that they'll forget. It's just they're kind of overloaded with other things. Reach out to them and you'll be amazed at what they will do for you. And it
Mhm.
will help them in the process. So I think that's another way for, expanding your network. And so
Mhm.
even if they're just someone that you haven't had a lot of contact with, continue to reach out to them. I think it
Mhm.
will benefit both of you.
Yeah, and who knows? I mean, that might just be a God sign of,
Hmm.
they need something or maybe you do and you just don't know it.
I agree.
So
I
listen
agree.
to maybe the signs that you receive.
I agree. Next one, keep a sense of purpose. You mentioned earlier,
Mhm.
retirement requires a purpose.
Mhm.
Uh, and speaking to a client this morning, and she was telling me the difficulty that she had 20 years ago when she retired. She said, I no longer had a purpose, or I didn't recognize my purpose. And
Mhm.
so I think you need a sense of purpose. And it's not just about stopping work,
Mhm.
it's about redefining your life.
Yeah.
And you are the author. So you get to decide what it means
Mhm.
volunteer, mentor, consult, like we mentioned, explore new hobbies,
Mhm.
hobbies, learn golf. Or a lot of friends are doing pickleball. Apparently that's real
I
popular
love
too.
pickleball.
But consider going back to work part time or, passion work. I mean, I have dear clients that have a wonderful nonprofit that they started called Pause and Praise. So, those are great avenues for redefining your life and making sure that
Mhm.
you maintain a purpose because
Mhm.
we're not just, you know, counting down the hours until we die. You need to have a purpose, no matter how
Mhm.
long or short your life is.
Yeah.
Um, so,
Yeah, and
uh,
that's a good point, Debbie, because I think a lot of people's purpose is tied to their work, right?
yes,
When we talk about, if I were to ask you, Debbie, who are you? Most likely you're probably going to say I'm a financial
financial
advisor.
advisor.
And same thing with me, and
Hmm.
it's so important to redefine that and take out prior to retiring, right?
Hmm.
Take out your profession
That's right.
in that question.
We
And
are so much more than our profession.
yeah, and so just ask yourself that, if someone were to ask me, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
How would you respond without anything about your profession? And I think that will get you to where maybe you can start finding your purpose or start somewhere.
And I did this with a few friends a few years ago, and then you bring it up, kind of reminded me. I said, "Okay, I want you to define me without using
Uh-huh.
my work,
Mhm.
and let's do that for each other." And we found out so much about ourselves based on what other people saw us and saw in us
Mhm.
and how we were. I think that's a great tool. So you might want to try that, friends. How would you describe me without using my work? And I think that's a great pre-retirement question to do
Mhm.
with people. But if you've already retired and you're struggling with finding your purpose, try that. I think
Mhm.
that would be a fun experiment. But,
Agreed. Yes, agreed.
uh,
Well, anything else,
I
Debbie,
have
in this
one,
episode?
one last tip, and that is protect yourself legally. So we need to
Mm.
continue, just like I have yearly, reviews with my clients, to make sure update those documents. Make sure that the beneficiaries are correct. Make sure that you are looking for scams. And we always need to be on the lookout for scams. Recently, in fact, the past week, I've received two of them myself. We received one from the IRS stating that our refund could not be deposited because they didn't have the banking information. And I knew that was not true. I did send it on to my CPA. Okay, look at it right. And she said, yeah, that's a scam. And man, it looks real. And
Yes.
so, you're supposed to scan the QR code. I knew not to do that, but they look so legitimate now. And even the fonts were correct on that, which
Mhm.
often they'll change the font, the style of the font to try to trick you into doing it. Everything about this looked accurate. So that was another one. And then yesterday I got one saying, someone has attempted to use your phone. And so click on this code. And I was like, okay, well, that's not true. I've got enough safety issues on. And so I have safety things built in to
Yes.
try to protect me from a lot of these. So you need to always be on the lookout for scams. I hate to say that. I hate being
Mhm.
paranoid about it, but we would not be wise in doing that. And then also keep your trusted contacts informed. So, for example,
Mhm.
if you are going on a trip, please advise your family or neighbors or close friends that you're going somewhere.
Mhm.
Someone needs to know where you are. If you are planning on making, if you're planning on making big financial decisions, if you have children, adult children, I encourage you to keep them informed because I know very now my mother was really good about picking up on the fact of I'm having memory issues. I'm worried about
Mhm.
Alzheimer's.
Mhm.
And she was correct. She is the one that identified us. That does not happen very often.
Mhm.
Typically, it happens without people realizing it. And
Mhm.
I always want someone in their corner to say, okay, I'm noticing some problems here. Often my clients will ask me, will you let my children know if you start to see me making decisions financially that are not in my best interest? They have given me permission to contact their power of attorney, which I think is a smart move with anyone with a financial
Mhm.
advisor as you progress into retirement. Just
Mhm.
it's another safety
Yeah.
aspect.
Yeah, great point. Well, and I just found out, I mean, neither my brother and I, we are not married, and I just found out that I'm a beneficiary for him. And I
Oh,
was like, "Hey, you should probably let me know that." And he
yes.
goes, "Oh, yeah, I probably should have, huh?" Yeah.
Well,
So
you especially need to because if it's not done correctly, it could end up hurting you financially
yes.
if it kicks you into a higher tax bracket and not done wisely.
Yep.
But I have a feeling you probably have him set up with a good financial advisor. But yeah, you need to ask. You need to ask permission before you make someone your power of attorney, your trustee, or put them as a beneficiary.
Yeah, great reminders.
Mhm.
Great reminders for safety, for sure. Well, and especially, I mean, I just think about, like, for safety, now now that I know, I might be
Mhm.
able to discern, if I get a call that says,
Yes.
"Oh, you're listed as a beneficiary," whatever. But if I didn't know, that
Mhm.
I would have assumed that that was a scam or
Yes.
whatever, and so it comes back down to safety too, of, like, just knowing where you are on listed on things
Yes.
and stuff like that. It's so important. So talk with your family members, talk with, relatives and seeing if you are listed on anything so you know what to expect
I agree. I agree.
and how to ask the right questions for
Mhm.
sure. Oh, well, Debbie, that was a great last episode to our series. I mean, this has been such a fun series and we've talked about so much. And so I encourage our listeners and viewers, please go check out the past ones. All of our podcasts are listed on YouTube. You can just search
Yep.
Retirement Your Way with Debbi Marcum, or you can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Amazon Music. We have done a series about women, fearless finances for women. But we also have other ones too. So feel
Yes,
free
we
to
do.
check them out. And we would love to hear from you about what you want to talk about or what questions you might have. And
We
so
love those.
please comment and let us know. Otherwise, Debbie, this has been a great episode, and I will see you next week. And that does it for this episode of Retirement Your Way with our host,
Thank you.
Debbi Marcum.